Welcome to my hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada, the city that can rival the backdrop of any European capital, known for its love of hockey and for having the world's best bagels. Sorry, New York City. It's also known for creating some of Canada's greatest entrepreneurs, including my guest today, Vincenzo Guzzo, the man responsible for the media empire behind me, Cinema Guzzo, one of Canada's largest movie operators. He also has his own line of popcorn, of chocolate, his own shoe line, and he's also the star of CBC's Dragon's Den. Today we are going to be meeting inside of Giulietta, one of his restaurants, where I will be asking him what it takes to make it. Vincenzo Guzzo, here we are in both our hometown of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Proud Montrealers. So good to finally meet you.
Thank you. Likewise.
I've been watching you a long time on Dragon's Den, and you've built this reputation of being ruthless, the straight to the point dragon. So my first, I guess, question to you is that a persona, Vincenzo, or is there a lot of truth to that's who you are in business?
So so I'll quote my father on this. So my father says, why do you have to be so gaffeux, sort of awkward? And the awkward he's referring to is being overly honest. He goes, why do you have to always make people feel awkward by being overly honest with them? For me, it's just, I always like to tell my dad, I say, look, my brain is busy with other stuff, so I don't want to have to remember anything. So I might as well just say the truth, because I have nothing to remember when I say the truth. And then the other thing is, too many times I hear flattery, and it's not the truth. And if I want to try and better myself, I'd rather get the truth. And so I'm assuming that everybody else should be just as happy about getting the truth. So
look, you've built an empire here with Cinema Guzzo. I mean, the name is synonymous with Montreal now. So working for you as a boss, right? What do you like?
In reality, I'm a team player. A lot of people don't think I am, but I am. I like to inspire my team to give me 110%, because in reality they're giving themselves 110%, right? I mean, helping the company or helping the vision that we have overall is helping everybody in the team. But I am a demanding boss, and yes, I will be hard sometimes, but I think everybody realizes I'm harder on myself.
And I know we just met, but what strikes me from your personality, from the show, what I sense and what I appreciate is you seem very unapologetic to me. Like, this is who you are, right? And you either like it or you don't. And I think that's something that we all have to practice more of.
Well, look, I'm 52 years old. As I like to say often to my wife, I got, 23 good years left before my back starts hurting, and then I got to,
I think it's more than that, but anyhow.
But you get to 75, life expectancy, type of thing. So I said to myself, do I really have the time to waste living a fake life, apologizing for who I am? And ultimately, why do I have to apologize for who I am? Success is a very lonely road, right? It's a path that you take on your own, and people come in and out of that path, and you work together, and you hope that anybody who's come in, you've impacted positively, and obviously those are the ones that didn't try and stop you from continuing, because those, they may have suffered some some disappointing situations.
So let me ask you, you just wrapped filming season 16 of Dragon's Den. Congratulations on the success of the show. I've interviewed, I believe, the majority of the sharks, now most of the dragons, and I love getting the inside perspective of, look, there's entrepreneurs, hungry entrepreneurs most of the time, coming on the show, right? What does it really take to make it? And I know it's like when they're pitching you, is it true it's the first time you're hearing the pitch for the first time? You don't...
Yeah.
You don't have that. You have no idea who's coming on that stage.
I have no idea.
Or coming behind the doors. Do you know right away, okay, this person has it, doesn't, or what's going through your head most of the time?
No. So look, I mean, it's going to sound a little shallow, but appearances do have their importances, right? So we had somebody pitch with half a beard, half a haircut, and so when he was walking in, wow, this is going to be special. Like, what a wacko job, right? Type of thing. So that happens. But in reality, what we do is we give everybody a shot to give us their story. Sometimes people try and just recite what they've memorized, right? And that's, they usually stumble, and that's usually when I say, okay, look, stop trying to remember what you wrote. Just tell me your story. And that's what people need to understand, right? A pitch is, tell me your story. Tell me why your mission, your entrepreneurial journey is so cool, and it's something that I should want to go on with you, because sometimes it's not only the money, right? So I did a deal, for example, with Rudy Ladd, Paul from Rudy Ladd, and so Paul came in. It's a T-shirt company. I mean, printed T-shirt company. I could have done that anywhere I want. But you know what? It impressed me that he had gotten Bono and he had gotten a few of the Backstreet Boys to wear his products and so forth and so forth. His sales were $50,000 when we did the deal. Now his sales are $500,000 a year, right? So, and now we've created a popcorn, named after Rudy Ladd, right? So for me, I always like to tell people, partnerships are like marriages, or marriages are like partnerships. Look at it the way we want. Truth of the matter is, do I really want to be partners with somebody that we don't have the same vision? We don't have the same, and remember, not knowing the vision is one thing, but not having the same vision is totally different, right? So we have to go through that. I'm a numbers guy, right? So this year more than ever, Manjeet's sitting next to me instead of across from me. So, she paid me a compliment not too long ago and said, I'm impressed. I mean, as much as it's a bit of a pain that you always ask them to spell the names out because, you want to write them properly, you're good with the numbers. Yeah, that's my thing, the numbers, right? So I get the numbers.
Yeah.
So.
And to that point, because I read another interview you were in where you were saying we almost need to get back to that old-fashioned calculation of evaluations that we have kind of gone to the wayside. I want to talk about that philosophy, because I really thought that was interesting.
I've seen $100 million companies lose $20 million. So why am I looking at the $100 million revenue? I want to know, what's the bottom line. Are you making money, losing money? Now, I can justify investing in a company that's losing money, because if I can understand why you're losing the money and realize that they're just mistakes, I can correct those, and now we have a profitable company, and you have $100 million of existing revenue. So, so ultimately, yes, you could say, well, it's a $100 million company, so he wants $100 million valuation, okay, but that's because I've already done the math that there's an EBITDA, or there's a net margin that's profitable, so it makes sense. But to exclude them will create the problems we have today, which is you have Uber, who is an incredible company, but hasn't made $1 of profit in its history. You have Netflix, which valuation may be $20 billion, has not had a positive EBITDA. I mean, they've had a positive adjusted EBITDA, and the minute somebody says to me adjusted, that means you're tweaking the numbers. So I'm no longer interested in that. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to stop believing that subscriptions, email addresses, people's home addresses are worth something. You know what I mean? Like, the truth of the matter is a business needs to be self-sufficient.
And to that point, so first point, I want to learn more about your Vincenzo Guzzo's investment style. I know that you really like the food sector. Obviously, you have your own brand of popcorn now. You have your own shoe brand. But as Vincenzo the investor, what are sectors you're personally liking these days?
So, on a show level, what I like to do is always look at a product that could be vertically integrated in what I have, right? So when I went into the food space, when I tried to do a deal for a chocolate company, it's because I have movie theaters, we sell chocolates. I can give him my volume. I give him the $2 million volume and not give it to one of the big American brands. Same thing with the popcorn. Same thing with the tomato sauces for the pizzas. So the first look is a vertical integration. How does it fit in my portfolio? Then there's, is this an idea that's novel enough, that's crazy enough sometimes, that could actually change the way people do things, right? For example, we had this year somebody pitch a cryptocurrency, way of giving back to people. So you would use your credit card and you would exchange your points, accumulated points, for cryptocurrencies, right? So now that's interesting to me, because I'm saying, okay, now I'm actually monetizing now those points instead of just going online and buying, exchanging it for new office chairs or crazy things that we waste money on, type of thing. But on a personal level, for example, I'm more of a pragmatic person. In other words, I'm heavily invested in oil. I'm a big believer in oil. I think anybody who criticizes oil is really just trying to criticize the automotive industry. So for that, I'm heavily invested in it, and I've been lucky because oil has been going up like crazy since the beginning of the pandemic. And so, those are the kind of stuff. And then obviously I'm a big investor in when it comes to real estate.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in land. I'm a big believer in real estate.
And which area? Do you like areas or are you international in scope?
No, more Montreal,
Okay.
Greater Montreal, Quebec City, or I'm looking at stuff out west. And I always like to say, look, land's really important because God ain't making any more unless you're in Hawaii and it's slowly creeping up on you. But, so land's going to become more and more valuable. And ultimately, I'm a big believer in brick and mortar.
I had seen that you believe in brick and mortar, and,
Yeah.
and I thought that was interesting because you're like part of a small population that has belief in brick and mortar.
Yeah.
When we see, the results from retail companies, and we see how everyone's buying online now, clothing, but
Yeah.
you believe that people will go back to shopping in stores?
Well, I always like to say, shopping online is convenient, but it's not sexy. And so, every once in a while somebody says to me, well, what do you mean? I says, well, imagine the average person online shopping, right? They're probably in their pajamas, or they're probably in their,
Yeah.
sweatpants or whatever. So they're not like, they haven't really thought about, hey, people are going to see me, let me
Yeah.
fix myself up. When you actually go out, what are you doing? You're looking for an experience, right? So 3 months of COVID made us believe, hey, we might like this. This might be fun to just stay home and, hibernate for the next 30 years of our lives. 14 months later, what have we learned from COVID? Man, I don't want to stay home anymore. Open the terraces,
pent
open
up
the
demand.
bars, let's go,
Absolutely.
right? And so I think that the bet, and this happens a lot, the bet was that online would gradually go up, and then it would get a peak. I think what's happened now is that it peaked quicker than we thought, and I think it's going to level off. So this is what's going to happen. I think you're going to buy your computers online.
Right.
I think you're going to buy your toilet paper online,
Right.
maybe. But the minute it's something that has to make you feel good, you're going to want to touch it. You're going to want to wear it, right? So I always like to say the sad thing about the fashion industry was that every time I bought an Armani suit, I thought I was going to look like the guy wearing the Armani suit in the poster. And I ended up not realizing that I was 5'7" and he was 6'2". I weighed 320 pounds. He weighed maybe 120, wet, right? So, and that's where the problem is. So people are going to want to go back to touching, to feeling, just going and take a walk, right? And I always tell people, when you go to the movies, it is the only socially distant activity that we had in our life before COVID-19. Because you would go to a movie theater with 400 other people, didn't kiss anybody, you just there, watched the movie, laughed with people, cried with people, got scared with people, and went home. But you didn't have to shake anybody's hand. There was no obligation. It's not like an Italian wedding, right, where you got to say hi to everybody, and then you're going to wash your cheeks from all of the makeup that's been left on both sides, right? And so the whole idea is somewhere along the way, we are humans. And unless somebody's telling me we've become the guy in Avatar who's going to just lie down in an incubator and dream everything,
Right.
I don't think that's life. I don't think the average person wants to do that, right? And we see these bubbles, we see these problems occur because we have a billionaire who says the future is this.
You mentioned cryptocurrencies
Yep.
before. I'm interested to know your take. Obviously, we've seen the sensation of Bitcoin, of the mania surrounding Dogecoin. Do you subscribe to the cryptocurrency belief that this is the future of money?
So I'm going to tell you, yes, but with certain reserves.
Okay.
So I'm on the board of a company called Flip and Pick, which is a social media play, but is also a long-term play on converting points to possibly cryptocurrencies and so forth and so forth. So I understand the space. I want to understand it a little better. I think there's still a lot of unknown. In other words, any currency that goes from $1 to $1,000 in 12 months is a currency that's dangerous for everybody.
It's a bubble for you?
Well, no, it's not a question of a bubble. It means it's something that might too easily be manipulated. And currencies need to be stable.
Interesting, because the counter argument, the Bitcoin people will
Right.
say, Bitcoin's the only currency that can't be manipulated.
Well, I mean, let's just say that then Elon Musk should not have talked, right? Because the minute it talked, I think it dropped 33%. Now, could you imagine if the whole world's buying power dropped because one billionaire decided to say something bad about, so that's very dangerous for me. Right now, a lot of people don't realize it. The standard is the US currency, right? They're the ones but that's a stable currency. In fact, we had to take it off the gold standard to make it stable. In the case of cryptocurrencies, there's people mining them to try and steal them. There's people, buying into them. And then there's that eternal belief that this parallel currency that is not managed by the banks may be facilitating right, criminal activities or whatever. So you sit there, okay, like, do we want to push this? Do we want to regulate it more? And the cryptocurrency people tell you this is the only currency that cannot be controlled by the governments. Yeah, I know, but that's a problem, because who can it be controlled by then? Right?
It's for the people, by the people.
Yeah, well, by the people, for the people, that's what the USSR used to say, right? And we know where that ended up. And we know what China says about for the people, by the people, only for the people, and then, so we have to be careful. We have to be very careful about socialistic beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we're humans. And we know the way humans behave, right? We all know that, and especially after 14 months of COVID, we know the best way to control people used to be religion. Fear people. The religious organizations were there to scare people into obeying the kings. Today, we used fear to control people for 14 months. But that creates consequences. That creates damages to mental health, right? And so I'm not convinced that the best people to control a currency is the people. I think it should be governed by people who know what it is to govern, and it's governments, and it's got to be somebody who can stabilize the currency, right? And it can't be traded on a stock market.
I want to talk about the pandemic now, because you've been very vocal about it. We're sitting in a beautiful restaurant here, Giulietta, Neapolitan-style pizzeria. So you are a restaurateur, yep. You are a media mogul. Two of the hardest hit industries during the pandemic. I want to know what the pandemic taught you and how you rebound from this.
So, I mean, the first thing I think the pandemic taught me is that I do make mistakes. And what I mean by that is I was the voice of reason April, May, June, telling everybody panicking, guys, settle down. This is not going to last more than 2-3 months. Like this, come on. The amateur show can't last that long, right? And so I made bets. And the bets that I made were, for example, I did not ask for financial reprieve from mortgages on my real estates or whatever, because what does it give me? It's 3 months. The other thing I've learned is, right when you think you've made it and oof,
yeah.
Well, that's when,
It's a humbling experience.
That's right. It's a very humbling experience to everybody. And a lot of people need to also understand, the other thing I've learned is how little people understand public taxation or public fiscal policies.
To that point, what fascinates me, because like I said, I interview a lot of successful people, unfortunately, on a daily basis to be learning from people like you, but I always wonder, like, you can make wealth, right? You could make it, but then there's a different level of really making it. Like, I mean, talking multi-million of dollars, okay? How do you go to that level? How do you get there? Is it like a character trait that you found amongst, multi-millionaires, or is it a drive of continuously wanting to do, of never stopping? What does it take?
So ultimately, I think what determines where you're going to stop, right?
Yeah.
Is really up to you, and it's also up to a question of luck. In other words, I can probably tell you that you take any of the top 10 wealthiest families in the world, you can probably associate their huge jump in wealth to one deal.
Yeah.
They did a certain deal at a certain time, which nobody understood. They did, and Whether they fully understood it or not is another story.
Right.
And all of a sudden they exploded in the wealth. Very rarely do you get a Buffett kind of slowly nibbling. You know, I like to call it the beaver nibbling, and then you finally realize, hey, look at how much nibbling I got, and look at how much wealth I've created. Rarely does that happen. Normally it's huge jumps. Somebody works really hard. He's almost at the brink of bankruptcy, and then all of a sudden some guy gives him a value that makes no sense, and now he's a multi-billionaire, right? That's what we're seeing today. But I always tell people, you've got to enjoy the ride. And I'll tell you why. Because I remember when I was 15, 16, I would say $1 million. That's all I need. If I could get $1 million,
I'm good.
Right? I'm good. Right? And it was based on Lotto Quebec. Right? It's $1 million. Everybody's buying it. If I get $1 million, I'm good. Then you realize that as you're making money, your lifestyle changes, your habits change, your expectations change. So then you're probably going to get a 22 and say, okay, you know, that $1 million is not enough. I need 10 million.
Right.
And then you're going to get close to the 10 million. Then you say, 10 million is not enough. I need 100 million. Then I need 200 million. And then you realize, you know what? I don't really need anything. What I really want is the money so that I can do whatever the hell I want. And that's ultimately what people need to understand. And so I always tell people, don't set yourself a finish line, because when you get there, you will be very disappointed. Because you'll realize the adrenaline that you thought you were going to get from getting there is like, that's all. That's it. Like, think about, right, you do 3 years of university to get a diploma.
Right.
Yeah, you get the diploma.
Right, and then it's...
The next day, it's withdrawal syndrome. Like,
now what do I do?
That's right. It's a bit that impact of what the Olympics does to many cities, right? They're there for 45 days. It's a party all the time. Everything's, and then all of a sudden, the whole city... That's right. It goes to a depression mode. So the ones that continue...
Right.
And you know, for example, a guy like Bill Gates that could have stopped. He says, well, what do I need this, right? His co-founder, Paul Allen, did it differently. Right? He did it more as a hippie style. Yeah, I'll do what I want and so forth. Not one's right, the other one's wrong. No. Was it good for you? It is. So I don't like to judge other people. What I don't like is the people telling me what to do, but then they're doing totally the opposite, or they're totally contradictory in what they're saying, right? So, and that's where I end up many times telling people, do it your way. I tell Michelle Romanow, stop trying to fit in sometimes in a conventional way of what a woman at your age should be at. Forget it. You're not a conventional woman. Appreciate that you're an exceptional woman. Get it done. Do what you got to do to be happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Michelle, a good friend of our show. I guess to wrap your, like I said, we're in one of your restaurants, so you have a popcorn line, your own snack line, chocolate, your own shoe line. You've made it in the movies. What's next for you? What do you want to do next?
I don't think I've, the nice thing about it is I don't think I've, I don't think I've accomplished half of the things that I want to accomplish. I mean, we have a whole food line division that's coming out for retail. We have Giulietta Pizza, frozen pizza coming in. We have, cheesecake cones, miniature cheesecake cones coming in under the Giulietta brand. I think the food service part is something that I'm
passionate about? Well,
not passionate about. What's funny is, and I'll give you as an example, Saputo Cheese, who's they're friends of ours, and I said to myself, I don't get it. You guys are always complaining there's no money to make in food. Because the margins are like this small. Yeah, I know. The problem is for so many years, I just said, yeah, you're right. If I'm not getting a 20% return on my money, it's not worth it. Until I realized that, wait a minute, you guys are making pennies per transaction, but you guys are making billions of transactions. I'm only making millions of transactions. So even if I'm making $2, I'm still not making anywhere near your money. And so that's where I looked at that food space differently. And I said, okay, wait a minute. The key here is to create a brand. How do we create the brand? How do we create a quality product? And that ultimately, you're buying it for the sales, but you're also buying it for the name recognition, for the brand recognition, right? And that's where part of the learning experience on Dragon's Den was, season 1, I'm doing what I would call my conventional deals that I would normally do. Season 2, wait up a minute. I think I'm seeing opportunities here, talking to my fellow dragons that I hadn't seen before. And then season 3, and now season 4, I'm getting into an argument with the girl next to me on the
Who
left,
shall not be named.
who shall not be named, because I'm stealing in her mind food deals from her. But who said the food deals are yours? Why can't I be a foodie guy now, right?
I love the drama. That's really
right.
taking
And
place.
so ultimately, I think that's an important part of the business that's going to go forward. And I think the real estate part, because during this pandemic, one of the assets that helped us navigate through these crazy times was the equity in those assets that we had, which was all of the real estate.
And maybe we'll see you on Shark Tank one day. You never know.
Maybe.
You never know.
I guess we'll have to get a waiver on my CBC exclusive, huh?
Not trying to put you in hot water there. I want to conclude here with two of Vincenzo's favorites. Okay, your favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Oh, wow. That's my husband's favorite.
Yeah.
Why all men love this movie? I bet you can recite the line.
No, I can't. Well, of course, I can recite the one that says what we do here today will echo in eternity. You know what I mean? Okay, I mean, that one. But, I mean, I think it represents who I am, right? It represents, you know, the warrior in the business world that I am, but it also represents the man that, you know, will do whatever to avenge any harm that's done to his family.
Maximus
You know?
Aurelius.
That's right. That's right. I, think
I don't know the rest.
Yeah.
Okay, and like I said, we're here in Montreal. Both are hometowns. So for our global audience watching this, favorite thing for you to do in Montreal?
Wow.
Besides eating at Julieta, obviously.
Yeah, besides eating, watching a movie at Cinema Guzzo. No, okay. Besides that too, right?
Like a must. If someone's watching this and thinking, hey, I want to come to Montreal.
F1 weekend, you know, in the paddocks
and
talking to the guys at Ferrari.
Yeah, Grand Prix weekend in Montreal.
Yeah,
that's a good choice. Good choice. And one thing you have to eat when you come to Montreal.
Look, even though I don't own the place, I mean, I think you have to have a Montreal smoked meat, right?
You got to go to Schwartz's, right?
That's right. You got to go to Schwartz's, and you got to go to St. Viator for bagels.
Yeah, that's right.
So those are
the Morena brothers. Yeah. Vincenzo, what can I say? It was our first time meeting, but I feel like I've known you forever, that I'm part of the familia. So thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Thank you for coming all the way from New York to here, and
well,
thank you for having me on the show.
I'm happy to be back in my hometown, but this was the moment of the interview I'm actually waiting for. We're getting to try the pizza. The famous Neapolitan
pizza. It's on its way.
Coming.
The Mr. Sunshine pizza.
The Mr. Sunshine.
This is the Mr. Sunshine pizza.
This looks hot. Spicy.
But that's what happens. It goes in warm and it becomes hot as we go.
All right. Enjoyed my exclusive one-on-one with Vincenzo Guzzo as much as I did. If you want more content, remember to sign up at danielacambone.com for premier access to more exclusive interviews, insights, and a lot of great stuff coming your way. In the meantime, I'm still going to enjoy this souvenir I took with me. Delicious. Thanks for watching.